Hi, everyone. So today, we're kind of chuckling because we've been called to talk about a really huge topic. There's many layers to why we're just going ahead with it anyway. But part of that is because it's something that we have gone through and our own experiences in unraveling the conversation around, and it's just like a great big topic, right? But this conversation around organized religion, church, faith, God, Jesus, all the names, and how your walk with and your walk in on your inner truth is such a part of that, and that we just want to support so much people that faith and trust is such a beautiful part of life.
Yeah, through my own experience too, you could come up against resistance to certain words. God, prayer, Jesus, whatever it may be, sometimes we hit huge resistance to that, which actually prevents us in our own healing, in our own journey, in our own expansion to what is resistance? Resistance is stories, programs, agreements, whatever it may be that you're coming up against to begin to heal. And when I was growing up, we went to church and everything, and as I got older, I started having resistance because of things I heard in the church, because of things that were happening in the church, things that came to light because of certain organized religions. And so I really had to, as I dived deeper into my own spirituality, my own connection, I had to dive deep into why I was triggered by the word God, why I was triggered by the words or people talking about their faith in Christianity. So I've had to unpack a lot of that and really release any charge on certain words, because there is so much beauty and so much wisdom that comes from these teachings. The Bible is a book of wisdom, and you start to dive into it, and there is amazing things in there. Just like the other texts from Hinduism, Buddhism, the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, all of these religious texts are amazingly insightful and applicable to right now and what's happening in our world within the chaos. And it took a while to unravel the charges, and still unraveling it. But the actions of organized religion should not put a
I want to say cloud or shadow.
Yeah, a shadow. Yeah, it shouldn't, put the scarlet letter or this, thing over everything, because when you sit down to meditate, what are you doing? You're praying. When you sit down and really check into your heart, what are you checking into? All that is, which is God. God is just a word. Use universe, use source, use all that is, use divine. Use all of that. Yeah.
Use creator.
Yeah. Whatever it may be is what is depicted in these original texts as well. But things have been lost in translation, and also things have been used for mass control.
Yeah.
And there's no good, bad, right, or wrong. It just is what it is. But when you can start to find neutrality on these words, topics, subjects, and actually go and pick up a Bible or, the Bhagavad Gita or any other religious text. My dog, he's in here, and he just, he's like, oh.
And dog is spelled backwards. Yeah.
If you can try and pick them up with neutrality, the wisdom and the guidance and the beauty that unfolds in them is really quite incredible.
it really, really is. And this is why, I mean, I just felt so called to bring this up today, because I know that many people are hurting and struggling, and we really want for you to be able to find peace and find comfort. And maybe it is by picking up something that has so much beautiful wisdom, and then that helps you go inner with that connection from those words that are guiding you to go inner. We were talking a little bit before we came on about how the teachings of Jesus were the way,
He's the way shower.
and he's the way shower. And he said that you will do greater things than I.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so much power and guidance and wisdom in just that we wouldn't want anybody to miss out because of the triggering on the words. And now mind you, I still can carry a little bit. I'm like, I don't really get the Jesus thing sometimes. I'm not sure how that all worked. But as I grow in my own spirituality and my own just faith, and that I'm completely taken care of, um, then I'm starting to get more and more insight. It's like things are opening up. And I go, right, because Jesus was God as God's son and the way. So it's starting to open things up for me, and which it just becomes more and more graceful and more beautiful. So that's been the biggest desire is, and why I think this topic came up, or part of why is because I don't want anybody to miss out on that comfort, and that there is a way.
I think a lot of it, what comes down to also is releasing those triggers too, like Lena's talking about, but understanding that these are master teachers that have come to the planet and incarnated on the planet for a very specific reason in time. Jesus is called the Wayfarer because he lit up the dark in order for all that followed to be able to find their way. And you get into these old texts and the texts that weren't put in the New Testament and the Gnostic texts and the Gospels of Mary Magdalene and all of these beautiful texts that were left out. And you start to see a much different picture painted. And you start to see that all of these great master teachers, whoever it is that you really resonate, and maybe it's not Jesus, maybe it's not Buddha, maybe it's not all the Babaji and all of these other master teachers that have come to help and assist humanity in expansion, in growth and ascension and enlightenment. You just have to find inspiration. And truly that inspiration comes from your heart, because you could tap in and talk to any single one of these master teachers. And it sounds crazy. Maybe it sounds crazy to you as I'm saying that. And 4 or 5 years ago, it would have sounded crazy to me too. But they are there in your heart because they are part of you. And one of the best pictures that I'm a very visual learner. So one of the best visualizations for me to really understand God, source, universe, all that is, the oneness of what we are, is that we are all connected. And if you think of a picture, a digital picture, it's made up of thousands and thousands, millions of pixels. And each pixel, you could separate it out and there's an individual pixel that makes up the whole. Well, how I see it, what's happened, how I've seen the visualization so easily is that each of us is a pixel. So we are individually making up the whole of God, universe, source, all that is. And we are not separate because we are connected by this force that is larger than us. We are a direct reflection of God, which makes us innately perfect in everything that we do. So the chaos, the hurt, the pain, all of it that's out there is just us not seeing the big picture. that we are all the same, all part of each other, that your actions affect me and my actions affect you, because we're all that is. We cannot do anything without being interconnected.
Love it. And it's no joke that it says, and I'm going to play with word here a little bit, no joke that it says created in their image. As Kayla and I really have got to read this, that she's reading the Mary Magdalene story, which was, and femininity, as in this, is a big thing for people. And I get it, but because femininity was taken right out, completely out. And I think I've spoke on another one of the recordings, was how can we have a father without a mother? It's not the case. We have a mother. We have a mother on this, they created in their image. And maybe that's gonna poke at some people, and but just like feel into that. It's like we are that image, and we are so loved. We're so loved by these.
Our love.
We are love, and they created us, and we are of them.
And even as you're saying, you know, created in their image too, that really opens up, you know, what I'm seeing with that statement is that everything is created in the mass consciousness image. So we are all creating our reality together. So the chaos we all see is because of our thoughts and beliefs and programs that we're all putting into the whole to create life as we know it. Our reality too is created in their image. It's not me, it's not you, it's all of us together. And if we want to break free of the chaos, if we want to expand into the new earth, it's a job that's done by all of us, not just one. So we put so much on Jesus, you know, we put so much weight on him to be our savior, to be our savior, when truly we are all saving each other. He is part of us. He's one pixel, very large pixel, because he's very clear, and Christ consciousness and Jesus's energy is by, you know, the most beautiful, loving, compassionate energy. But it's not just him. And if he inspires you to grow, if he inspires you to look deeper into your heart, then by all means, connect with him, talk to him, bring him into your heart. But know that it's not just him, and that you have the same potential to be just like Jesus. And he said that in his text, in his gospels. It's said many, many times in many different ways too. But it's an opening of the heart that we all create together this reality that we experience.
And I want to speak to that a bit too, about, so people are going to say, I can just hear it, well, what are all about the bad things that are happening? Because there's a lot of horrible things happening, and I don't think we're not at the end of that yet. That's not God. That's not God. God wouldn't do that. God allows that. We allow that as part of God, as Kayla is saying, as part of this pixel, so that we can say, wait a minute, that's not the way that we're going, and we're done with that. God allows that, but that isn't God that's causing it.
I might disagree with you.
That's okay. We're gonna
over the last, you know, couple years too, really is sinking into the chaos, right? We've been in this now for, I mean, it's almost been 2 years, sub 2 years, but you start to ask questions deeper about, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And something that I feel I've come to as my truth, and that feels right in my heart, is that everything is God. There is no separation, even the light and the dark and the good and the bad, but it's our ego and our perception saying that it's bad. So yes, there are horrible things. I am not saying that what's happening out there is not horrible, because there are terrible things that are happening, and I mean, shocking things that none of us want to look at or even perceive to be true. However, and this may trigger a lot of people too, because, you know, when I first was looking at it, I was like, no, 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 no. But as I think deeper into it, we are all responsible for our creation. We are all responsible for everything that happens in our life. And we come into this life knowing that because we are God. We are God. And from the depths of the darkness is the only way we know what the lightest of the light and expansion is. And everything that happens is a perceived reality of God. It is the mirror. So God is this huge picture, and God wants to experience every experience that is possible to experience out there. But ultimately, like I was saying before, is that we are in control of our creation. So we can either create darkness, we can create pain and suffering and duality and polarity and these terrible things that are happening in the world, or we can choose to create in the light. We can choose to create beauty and oneness and expansion and in the condition of love, in the vibration of love. The only thing that creates the darkness is believing that we're separate from God. So God is not a judge. God does not judge. There is no good, bad, right, wrong. And it's when we have a judgment saying this is horrible, this is the worst thing that could ever happen, that is our own ego of individuality judging a situation. So God does not judge. So as much as it's and I'm still wrapping my brain around this, I'm still trying to figure this out, but I would have to say, from my deep introspection and thinking into my heart, that all that is, every single thing that we deem good, bad, right, wrong, is of God. So it's a hard thing.
And so
But
I'm going to say, yeah, and I'm going to add a yes and to it, because I don't, and this is what's beautiful about this conversation, because now you people get to go, oh, I'm going to go dive into that a little bit. You know, Lane and Kayla don't fully agree on that, but in the end, I'm going to watch, this is going to wind around, and what there's going to be, we're like, oh, right, we're talking about the same thing, is that there is a way that the people of God, as she was just saying, and that's all of us, and that's all of creation, right, that can be deceived.
Mm.
And that's that ego, that's that choice, that's that free will that says, I'm going to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, are we created of God? Is God of us? Are we the one and the same? Yes. And we can be deceived, and there's horrible, awful things that then happen from that deception. So looking at that, then we can go, oh, so God did not do that. God didn't say, no, you get to go. And I'm not going to say, because that's bad enough. We all know. And I think it's more is going to come out, which was another reason for this conversation. But we wanted to, I'm just going to say it, we wanted to make sure that as things come out around church and organized religion of horrible, awful things that have gone on, that you are able to go, but that is not the same as my faith and my trust in goodness and light and me as a goodness light being who has a source, and I just keep the word wants to come up, the way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and organized religion is not God. So
No.
you have to separate those from each other, that they're not one and the same either. Is that organized religion was not created by Jesus, was not created by God, was not created. That organized religion was created by human beings who ultimately, most likely, wanted control.
And
because sunk into duality, polarity, and suffering, and want to climb on the ladder up by stepping on other people. So that is very different. And there are beautiful aspects of church. I am not saying that they're not beautiful aspects. I think the biggest thing I love about church is the sense of community and the meeting every week to pray, and the heart opening and the love that comes out of a lot of that. The part that's hard is the dogma that comes underneath it, that there is one way. This is the way, and anywhere else is not the way. And you must be this way, otherwise you're doomed to hell forever. That's where it gets a little messy. And that is not God, because God doesn't judge.
God doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew we'd come back.
It's a big conversation, and I'm glad it came out this way, because it is a conversation, and you can have differences in how you see it. My truth is different from Lane's truth. It's different from your truth. It's different from other ones. So take what feels right out of these conversations and run with it. Anything that doesn't feel right is probably not your truth, so let it go. But allow it to, I always say, one of my great teachers, he comes and says, every situation, every conversation, everything that you come up, approach it with COLE: compassion, open, accepting, and loving. And I love that acronym, because everything should be that way, because you never know what you're going to learn. All of a sudden your heart may jump and you're like, that. I've heard it 100 times, but for whatever reason, the energy is right and it aligns, and I'm going to be open to it. So as you're starting new journeys or old journeys, listening to conversations, approach it with that mentality: compassionate, open, accepting, and loving.
I love that too. And I would say that be careful, because this is another conversation. I was like, well, we could talk about that too. Is the unraveling of New Age. And New Age wants us to do the my truth and your truth and that truth, and all of those things are true, but they're the little t's that you've heard us talk about, because there is an over big T truth. So make sure, because humans are easily deceived, make sure when you're diving into this stuff that you are continuously looking for those truths.
Big T.
The big T truths. We all know that, because God doesn't judge, that we shouldn't judge.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that murder's not okay. We all know that adultery, cheating, stealing, lying, not okay, because there was a lot of wisdom in the things that said don't do that. So as you're diving in, you're going, but what is my truth? Make sure that it's not my truth is okay to go lie, and right. So yes. I really wanted to bring that in there. And then the thing that you said too is Jesus wasn't he didn't organize the church. No, he went in and unorganized the church, which is why they were so mad at him. Which is also helps me and maybe somebody else go, oh wow, Jesus wasn't the bad guy. God's not the bad guy. They've shown us with these beautiful words and light and sun and nature. Some people like to say nature, and nature's God.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Nature, that's where you jump in and you find these core conversations. Maybe you do connect with Mary Magdalene. Maybe you want, Caleb, maybe you can put that in the notes for us. What book that is, or any or message us in the Telegram chat. We'll have all the links for this really giant conversation, but we really just wanted you to know that you get to have faith and trust and love, and it doesn't have to be organized religion.
Mm-hmm. And prayer is just a practice of intent, and that is really all it is. So if that word triggers you, that's fine, but that is, that practice of intent, that practice of directing energy, that's how we create. We're all master creators. So that's how we really create our reality, is through prayer or intention, or whatever you want to call it. Words are really powerful. Words are very strong. However, if one doesn't feel comfortable, take time to meditate on it, unravel why is it triggering me, but then come up with another word, because I mean, there's millions of words to say prayer, God, faith, trust, whatever it may be. But there's wisdom in the trigger too. There's wisdom in the resistance also. So if those things are you're butting up against resistance, those are stories that you get to unpack and heal from so that you can become one with God.
I love that. I love that. And since you brought it up really quick, because with the worst things, I was listening to something this morning, which of course sparked a lot of this, but that because we talk about a lot of manifesting and creating, and we talk about it all the time, right? A lot of this, but Jesus, in his, as you described it so well, Kayla, in his bigness of the pixel, right? He spoke things into being.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we can use that language because we are part of that great big pixel, right?
Yes.
Greater things than I. And we get to
Mm-hmm.
So we speak for you today that you find comfort, that you find some peace, you find some curiosity in this conversation and connection and faith.
Exactly. And we hope to see you soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for being here in our really big conversation. Thank you.
Big conversation. Open up a can of worms.
Yes.
Let's see what happens.
Good, nice words, cute ones.